Right. One of the things I've been thinking about that Jesus goes on about, that you get over and over again in the Gospels, is him about the Sabbath and how he is the one doing good on the Sabbath, but apparently the other Jews are not prepared to do good on the Sabbath, right? He does healing on the Sabbath. He does all sorts of things on the Sabbath, but it's all for a good cause. And so what you're getting from the Gospels is, for the non-Jewish audience, as they're reading it, is the fact that the Jews are not prepared to help anybody or to do any good deed to help any Jew in trouble on the Sabbath. In other words, the non-Jew is left, after reading the Gospels, thinking that Jewish people on the Sabbath won't lift a finger to help anybody in distress. In other words, you'd be dying of a heart attack and they won't call an ambulance. You could fall over in a street and a Jew would not go over and help you because it's Saturday, right? This is the impression you get from the Gospels of the Jewish people, and I really object to this, and I don't believe it. I don't believe it because I'm thinking about the Jewish community. And I'm thinking about ordinary decent people, and ordinary decent people never change. They were ordinary decent nice people at the time of Jesus, just as there are nowadays. And the very idea that, because I've lived in the Orthodox Jewish community, that anybody, any Jew, would fall in the street on the Sabbath, that no Jew would go and help them, is ridiculous. The idea that a Jewish person gets sick on the Sabbath, that a Jewish doctor would not go and help them or not call 999 is absolutely ridiculous. I do think the suggestion repeated in little stories in the Gospels that keep alluding and suggesting and inferring in all sorts of little stories in the Gospels that the Jews won't help anybody because it's the Sabbath. The Jews are against healing on the Sabbath. The Jews are against, visiting the sick. They're against anything doing any good on the Sabbath. And this is totally, totally untrue. It's actually a lie. This is a lie. This is an anti-Semitic lie. Right? The reality is, in Orthodox Judaism, and it will have been the same then, with variations, because it's perhaps slightly different culture and things, and, as it is through the ages. But if somebody needs emergency medical help on a Saturday, on the Sabbath, they will get it. They will get it. Right? They will get medical aid. However, on the Sabbath, if you have an ingrown toenail, the doctor won't be on duty for you, right? So at the time of Jesus, if you have an ingrown toenail that's troubling you, on a Saturday and it's troubling my ingrown toenail, you would not go to the doctor and bother the doctor on a Saturday because it's a day of rest, right? You don't bother. It's not an emergency, an ingrown toenail, right? However, if you get angina, right, and you're a man and you're in 50s, right, your wife will rush to the doctor nearby, the Jewish doctor, and he will come rushing along on the Saturday to help the man because it's a medical emergency. And so the point I'm trying to get here is that at the time of Jesus, that it is permissible and within Jewish law to help people in distress needing help, whatever the help may be. And I think personally that these little stories the anti-Jew, the Jew not prepared to do any good on the Sabbath, I think it's blatant anti-Semitism, and I think it's blatantly and totally untrue. And the reason why I'm so certain about this is because I've lived in an Orthodox Jewish community where they observe the Sabbath, right? And I know firsthand, I know doctors who were on call for the Sabbath, for the emergency. They are Jewish Orthodox doctors, right? And the patients, he only goes out for emergencies. He's only called for emergencies, right? He's not going to go out for an ingrown toenail. He's going to go out for the heart attacks. He's going to go for the baby with a high temperature, right? Now, in terms of actually doing miracles of healing, that can be done at any time. That can be done at any time. So it's like always, Jesus is always trying to be controversial, isn't he? He wants to be centre stage. And as with everything in life, when is the best time to do it? You know, why can't he do a miracle Monday morning? But making somebody better on a Saturday in an emergency is within Judaism. It's within Judaism, you see. What would be not permissible would be Jesus having a queue of people. Can you imagine? Jesus isn't supposed to be a healer. Can you imagine all the people queuing up with irritable bowel syndrome? I'd be there. Constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, arthritis. Oh, my back's killing me. Oh, my back's killing me, arthritis. Oh, my psoriasis. I've got a sty here. Can you do something about this, Jesus? You know, that is not the time for Jesus to be doing things like that on the Saturday. In other words, the whole point of a day of rest is it is supposed to be a day of rest. You only bother the doctor in an emergency, right? So if somebody, for instance, let's say somebody brings somebody and it's a baby with a high temperature of 103, right? And the parents are panicking and they're thinking of obviously taking it to the doctor and say, oh, take it to Jesus, he could do something, right? That's all right within Judaism. That's all right because it's a Saturday. Even though it's a Saturday, it's still all right because it's about saving life, protecting life and preserving life. However, to stop people with ingrown toenails and irritable bowel syndrome queuing up and bothering doctors on the Saturday, the rabbis have to give guidelines to the Jewish community about what is permissible on the Sabbath to do and what is not. Because you know and I know that there are people ringing emergency doctors for the most trivial things imaginable. The people are going to casualty. This is accident and emergency, an accident. They turn, I've got a bit of a sore throat. You don't go to accident and emergency with a sore throat. In the same way, you don't bother a Jewish doctor on the Sabbath, right? You don't do it. And so for me, when I hear all this criticism of the Pharisees and what's going on the Sabbath and these bloody Jews, that's what it's all about. These bloody Jews. We're always having a go at the Jews. The fact of the matter is, I'm telling you the truth here, that at the time of Jesus, anybody who is sick, desperately sick, needing help, the Pharisees would not object to them receiving help. They would not object to emergency treatment. Where they would object, and it's quite legitimate, is if people are queuing up to see Jesus, and there's a whole kerfuffle, right? And they're all queuing up with the minor little ailments, as you can imagine. Like, this is supposed to be the Sabbath. It's supposed to be a day of rest. And strictly speaking, Jesus should be resting as well. He should be resting. He should be only available for medical emergencies. Now, that if you've got a mother turns up with a teenage daughter and she's been talking about committing suicide, that is a medical emergency. So Jesus might have to sit down and counsel her for an hour, because there's a risk that she could actually kill herself. That is a medical emergency. So the Pharisees wouldn't have a problem with that. So the mother would say, my daughter, she tried to kill herself, and I brought him here to try and talk some sense into her or something. The Pharisees would say that's all right. It's about saving life and protecting life in emergency. It's on the Sabbath. But where the Pharisees would be legitimate in complaining to Jesus was if he was doing things that are totally unnecessary to do on the Sabbath, and that can be left and that can wait till Sunday morning. Wait to Sunday morning. Wait to Sunday morning when it's a work week. And again, I feel this is, when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking this again is always attacking the Jews. And the thing is, the non-Jewish world doesn't know that within Judaism, you can do anything. You can run a marathon. If you need to run 100 miles to save somebody's life, you can do. If it's going to save somebody's life, you can do. And people will run. If they need to run 20 miles to get a doctor to come and see somebody who's very seriously ill, or they're fitting, or you're worried, sick, what on earth's going on, and it's a Saturday, you can run for your life to get medical aid. If there's a fire, people can run around carrying pails of water if there's a fire on the Sabbath. And the problem with the Gospels, it's so misleading, and it's lying. And all the people that are reading this information, these lies, are mostly non-Jews. And so the non-Jews are reading it. The Christians are thinking these Jews won't allow any good to be done on the Sabbath. Well, no, that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. In Israel, they conduct emergency operations on the Sabbath. They do emergency operations on the Day of Atonement if it's to save a life. You can do that. You don't think if there's a fire on the Day of Atonement or on Saturday that the firemen say, oh, well, we're not going because it's a Sabbath. We're going to let people die. It's ridiculous. Of course there's people work on the Sabbath, but it's only for emergency care. In other words, the whole point of the guidance of the rabbis within Judaism is rabbis know what people are like. Rabbis know what workaholics are like. Rabbis know what you and I are like. We always make excuses for doing things, for doing work when we should be resting, right? We should be resting, we should be taking it easy, but we feel we've got to do this, we've got to do that. We're worrying about something, we have to do it. Oh, it's on our mind, we've got to do it. The doctor says, don't do it, take it easy, you need to rest. Take it easy, take it to rest, you see. But so many human beings feel compelled to keep busy and keep tiring themselves out physically, mentally, and they wear themselves out. And the whole point of the Sabbath is to relax, is to be rested in a relaxed mind, a relaxed body, being with the family, hanging out, chilling, chilling. It's about chilling. It's just about cool and just relaxing, and it's a little holiday. It's, forget about work, forget about the ironing, don't bother with the garden, just relax, it's about enjoying it and not wearing yourself out and saving those, and don't give up work to other people either. Don't give your doctor or dentist work that, let them have a nice day off as well. Okay, your dentist is on call, your Jewish dentist is on call, your Orthodox Jewish dentist is on call, but they're only on call for emergencies. They're on call for emergencies. They're on call for things like road crashes. You know, awful things that happen do happen. And they're needed, they're called out. Emergency dental treatment. I mean, this is a real emergency. Or somebody's in hospital and there's complications from the surgery that they've had. They had the surgery Thursday, suddenly there's complications on the Sabbath. And the emergency Jewish dentist, an Orthodox dentist, a Pharisee, he has to go and attend to it. And so I feel again that, like, Jesus, this character of Jesus is so bad for Judaism. He has given the Jewish people such an awful reputation. He's actually almost the character that's been constructed in the Gospels by the Gospels writers, these so-called reports, because we don't know if any of this is true, what's said, and what's true, who said what, you don't know. But it's all about presenting the Jewish community as being intolerant, cold, unfeeling, harsh. The religious leaders, the Pharisees, are totally without mercy. They see a sick person suffering and they have no compassion. And I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe this portrayal of the Pharisees. I think most of it's lies. Obviously, within every community, religious community, you get funny buggers. You get funny buggers everywhere, right? Everywhere you get funny buggers, you get difficult people, don't you? People you can't reason with. People that are a bit hard-hearted. People that perhaps not as, compassionate as they should be. We all know that, right? You've got bitches and bastards everywhere. But let me tell you, the Pharisees were not bastards. They were not bastards. They might be totally different. They're not perfect, But this portrayal of the Pharisees as baddies, of people who are so against doing good on the Sabbath, I just don't believe it. I believe this is anti-Semitism. I just don't believe it because of my experience of the Jewish community. And people don't change. This is what you have to remember. People are people. And just like I've known lots of nice people in the Orthodox Jewish community do anything to help anybody, And you're instructed, it's part of the Jewish religion. You must help somebody. You must help somebody on the Sabbath. If they need your help, you must help them if they need your help. You don't walk on by. If you see somebody's in distress, you must help them. That is your obligation as a Jew. And this has always been the obligation of the Jew, and it would have been at the time of Jesus. And so what I'm saying here is that I just feel that I just doubt the credibility of these accounts. I don't believe them. I don't believe them. And because these accounts in the New Testament has been responsible for so much suffering and persecution of my people over 2,000 years. These kinds of accounts in the New Testament. Those cold-hearted Jews that won't help people on the Sabbath. Those people are so finicky about the law, They won't let you eat something, They won't let you... it's just ridiculous. It's just... And it's almost like the writer of the Gospels is looking for things to put into his account to attack the Jew. Let's discredit the Jew publicly in an account all the time. Because really, Jesus has nothing really much nice to say about the Pharisees. I think there's one or two sentences where he gives some credibility, but it's very, very little. And if you look at it on balance, when Jesus is evaluating the Pharisees, he is totally and completely harsh with them. And that makes me suspicious. It makes me very, very suspicious. And you have to say, what is the intention of the writer? What is the intention of the writer? Right? These Gospels were written after the book of Acts. So we've got St. Paul the writings of St. Paul came first before the account of the Gospels. And it's almost like you've got Paul being very anti-Jewish, and now you've got the Gospels being very anti-Jewish. And I just question it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Because I know the Jewish community, and people don't change. And I know that and I'm just not happy with it, and it bothers me. And this is what's contributed to all the anti-Semitism over 2,000 years, these kinds of accounts. And the Christians love to quote it, and they're very anti-Jewish because of it. Because the Christian views Judaism as legalism. This is the problem, because they don't understand it. The Christians don't understand that you can break any law in the Hebrew Bible to save life, to protect life and preserve life. Right? They don't know that. They don't know that. They don't know that. Let's say a father, this is where you have the outworking of justice. Let's say a father comes home and he finds that a man is raping his wife, and as he's trying to get the wife off, and there's a struggle, and he has to hit him, and of course he ends up dying, then you have to make a judgment as to what he's guilty of. He's certainly not guilty of murder, and what he's doing is trying to save his wife. And what you have to understand about Judaism is that we are the originators of law. In other words, law and justice as you know it originates in the Jewish religion, because once you have a commandment like do not murder, which is one of the 10 commandments, you then have to outwork that law and work out what is murder and what is not murder. And that was what the Jewish community had to do. So the Jewish community has a history from Mount Sinai of having to work out the commandments of God. What is murder? What is not murder? What is attempted murder? What is manslaughter? What is murder committed by somebody who's taken a drug and they don't know what they're doing? Is that murder or is it not murder? You push somebody, but you don't mean them to die, but they fall and they hit the head and they die. Is that murder? And I mean, from Mount Sinai, the Jewish people have had the responsibility of outworking the commandments of God. And so when it comes to the Sabbath, the rabbis have been entrusted by God through the oral law. God has given the permission for the Jewish leaders to outwork his law. So God has commanded, do no work on the Sabbath. So everybody says, well, I don't mind cleaning. I like cleaning. I don't think it's work, I like cleaning, I love work. To me, work's not work. So how do you get somebody who loves work to understand that they mustn't work on the Sabbath, and they need to understand what is work and what is not work? And that is the role of the religious leaders in the Jewish community. And with the advancement of new technology and machinery and everything from the very beginning through the ages, the rabbis have had to outwork this commandment and guide the community as to what is work and what is not work. And this is through deliberation and discussion. This isn't about one guy just making, you mustn't do this, you mustn't do that on the Sabbath. No, this is a community of elders discussing what is appropriate to be doing and what is not. Should you be driving a motor car? Motor cars are invented. Should a Jewish person be driving a motor car on the Sabbath, or should they not? If they do drive it on the Sabbath, under what circumstances can they drive a car on the Sabbath? Well, you can drive a car on the Sabbath to take somebody to casualty. You can do that. I have a little guinea pig. If my guinea pig got sick on the Sabbath, right? Very, very sick. And I went to the rabbi next door and I said to the rabbi, my guinea pig is very, very sick. Very sick. I need to ring the vet now. I need to ring the vet now to see if they will see my guinea pig, and I need to get a taxi. I'm not on the phone, Rabbi. I need to use your phone to ring for a taxi to take my guinea pig to the vet, because the guinea pig is very sick, and if I don't get the guinea pig to the vet, she could die. She's very, very sick. She could be bleeding. Also anything could be the matter. So what I'll tell you, the rabbi would say, yes, of course you can use the phone to ring for the vet. Of course you can use the phone to order a taxi to take the guinea pig to the vet. And you know why this is permissible in Orthodox Judaism? All those Orthodox Jews with the long payers, the side curls, the black hats and the black coats, they would all say yes to my guinea pig going to the vet by car, because it's about saving a life. It's about protecting a life and saving life. And a guinea pig is a living creature, and God has given us a mandate to take care of animals. And so when an animal is seriously ill like that on the Sabbath and it's a risk of dying, you can break the Sabbath rules and go off in your motor car to the vet. You can do this. You can do this. And this is what the non-Jew doesn't realise, because of these gospel accounts, because it gives the impression that the Jewish people don't allow any things that need to be done as a matter of a medical emergency, about saving life, or an animal's life. They think that you won't do anything, but that's not true. That's not true. I know this from my own experience, and the problem is the church doesn't understand the fact that what the oral law and what the rabbis have been doing since Mount Sinai is putting flesh on the bones of God's commandments to guide and help the Jewish people observe the commandments of God. Observe the commandments of God. Right? Because people don't know, well, what does it mean, work? What does it mean to keep the Sabbath holy? Again, the community leaders have to sit and discuss this. What does it mean? What does it mean? You see? And the church itself has had a history of do's and don'ts on the Sabbath. For instance, in the United Kingdom, when I was a child in the United Kingdom, all shops were closed on a Sunday. The newsagents were allowed to be open till 11 a.m. and then they had to close. This was the law of the land. This was when United Kingdom was considered a Christian country, and no shops were allowed to be open on a Sunday. Sunday was considered a day of rest. You could be prosecuted. You couldn't open a shop on a Sunday. But that comes from the religion of Christianity, because they have been trying to work out how to keep their Sabbath, which is Sunday. So traditionally, like when I was a child, I know with non-Jewish children, I knew on the Saturday the parents did very, very little housework. They did the minimum. They just literally did what they had to do to put the food on the table, but they didn't do housework. They wouldn't be going around doing all the washing and things like that on a Sunday. No, they went to church in the morning and came home, and it was family time. That was another thing. People didn't gallivant, go on long journeys. They tended to stay at home as well. They tended to go for walks, family walks and things like this. And this is all part of the outworking. How do you outwork this, observing the Sabbath and it being a day of rest and what it means? And so in a sense, that's what the Jewish people are doing. And I'm sorry for talking for so long, but I feel very passionately about this, because I was a Jewish believer in Jesus for 42 years, and I found repeatedly all the time that Christians in the church don't understand, and it's because of the Gospels and the subject that I've been talking about, the Sabbath and what you can do and can't do on the Sabbath. They don't realise that Judaism is not a legalistic, inverted commas, religion. It's actually a very flexible religion. It has mountains and mountains of common sense. Orthodox Judaism, as it's practiced, is a very sensible and down-to-earth religion. Because I've lived in the Orthodox community, it's a wonderful way of life, and you can't beat observing a Jewish Sabbath. It's absolutely magnificent. It is so wonderful. It beats even a Sunday Sabbath by margins. It's wonderful. It's really, really peaceful. And everything, and this is what the unfortunately Christianity doesn't understand. It doesn't understand Judaism. It just makes judgments, sweeping judgments. And it's because of this anti-Semitic rhetoric in the New Testament. It is the anti-Semitic rhetoric in the New Testament that has caused Christians to view the oral law, Judaism, the outworking of Orthodox Judaism, as just legalism, because Christianity has a total and utter contempt for Orthodox Judaism, and it's simply because they don't understand it. They don't know anything about it. They actually don't know anything about it. They only know what they read in the New Testament, and they believe that what they're reading in the New Testament is true. And I'm telling you that a lot of it is lies, and it's not true. That is not true. That is not true. That is not true. I don't believe it. I don't believe these Pharisees were as bad as they're painted, because the Jews are always painted badly. And St. Paul's always having a go at the Jewish people. Jesus is having a go at his own people. He's so stern. He's so stern. He seems to like the moral high ground all the time. And all this has contributed to. This has all contributed to the anti-Semitic attitudes held by Christians in churches because of what they read. They read this in the New Testament, and they have a contempt for Judaism, and they misunderstand it. They don't understand it. They think people are keeping the Sabbath to try and get to heaven. Well, Jewish people don't observe the Sabbath to try and get to heaven. They do it because they like obeying God, believe it or not. They don't think of that. The evangelical Christian doesn't think of that. They don't think that the Orthodox Jew obeys the commandments of God because they enjoy doing it. They like to obey God, actually. It's not a pain in the arse. No. Well, it's not a pain in the arse. I haven't got to do what God tells me about. Oh, no. You see, when the evangelical Christian says that, they reveal more about themselves than they do about the Orthodox Jew. The Orthodox Jew takes delight in observing God's laws. Most evangelical Christians don't. I know, because I've lived in the evangelical community. I know that there is a reluctance to obey God. There really is a reluctance to obey God, and that it's done with great reluctance. People are doing, oh, I've got to obey God. If they only knew how much delight Orthodox Jews get in following the commandments of God. They love to do it, and they're not doing it to try and get into heaven. They're doing it because they enjoy doing what God asks them to do, because this is what God has asked them to do, and they like doing it. They do it because they like doing it. They like to obey God. And I found within the Orthodox Jewish community, in my experience, that the attitude towards obeying God is far more positive and far more, they love to do it, like they enjoy to do it, they want to do it, than the evangelical Christian, in my experience. I always feel there's a reluctance, that they don't really want to do it, but they feel they have to do it, so I've got to do it. Jesus says, I've got to do it. I've got to do it, so I've got to do it. I've got to love her. Can't stand her, but I love her, you know. I always felt that with so many Christians is a reluctance to do what God is asking them, but they're doing it because they feel they have to do it. Whereas my experience with Orthodox Jews is they're doing it because they actually like to do it. And therein, in my experience, is the big difference, a huge difference.